dear Mr De Castro, dear Paolo, you rightly have the last word in this debate as rapporteur. And again, I thank you for your work on GIs. Your attention to farming and quality food is well known, including our work together over many years on the Agriculture Committee here in the European Parliament. So it's nice to have a moment to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner. And now back to the rapporteur, Mr. De Castro.
Grazie Presidente. Grazie
Thank you
davvero,
very much, President.
Commissaria
And
McGuinness, grazie per le parole a tutti i
Commissioner
colleghi e lo straordinario supporto di questo lavoro di 2 anni in cui siamo davvero messi in ascolto delle istanze di tutti gli attori coinvolti e abbiamo sviluppato uno strumento innovativo che spero davvero che possa dare un ulteriore forte impulso alle filiere di qualità. Lasciatemi dire, dopo le crisi dovute alla pandemia, all'invasione russa dell'Ucraina, all'impennata dei costi di produzione, finalmente davvero una buona notizia per i nostri agricoltori europei. Ma voglio dire che questa riforma non può rappresentare un punto d'arrivo. Deve invece diventare una piattaforma da cui partire per dare slancio ad una nuova fase di sviluppo delle filiere ad indicazione geografica, ormai passate dall'essere una questione di pochi Stati membri, particolarmente affezionati alla propria cultura culinaria, a rappresentare un vero patrimonio economico, politico, oltre che culturale e sociale a livello europeo. Esistono infatti potenzialità di crescita enormi per le produzioni di qualità. E per cogliere queste opportunità, ora il testimone passa nelle mani dei produttori e delle filiere, che dovranno dimostrare di essere all'altezza della sfida e sfruttare al meglio quanto tracciato con questo regolamento. Nel frattempo, però, l'Unione non può rimanere a guardare. Per questo, cara Commissaria, chiediamo fino ad oggi la creazione di un piano d'azione ad hoc, sulla scorta di quanto già facciamo per il settore biologico, che possa ulteriormente supportare e consolidare un patrimonio, come detto, non delocalizzabile e che coinvolge milioni di operatori a livello europeo. Cari amici, cari colleghi, questa è l'Europa che vogliamo, capace di accompagnare gli agricoltori verso sistemi produttivi sempre più competitivi e sostenibili, riallacciando quel legame con le nostre aree rurali che pare essersi un po' smarrito negli ultimi anni. Grazie ancora a tutti.
With our consumers and putting them at the forefront, at the center of the stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The debate is closed and the voting will be held tomorrow. Thank you.
Boa tarde, colegas. Prosseguimos com a nossa sessão. Informo que a ata da sessão de ontem e os textos aprovados já foram distribuídos. Pergunto se há alguma observação. Não havendo, a ata é considerada
If anyone has any observations, that's not the case, then we continue. Then we deem these minutes adopted. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda,
do Vice-Presidente da Comissão e Alto Representante da
which is a
União
statement
para os
by
negócios estrangeiros e a
the
política
Vice
de
President of the Commission and
segurança
High Representative of the
sobre a
European
guerra
Union
na faixa de Gaza
for Foreign Affairs and
e a
Security
necessidade de
Policy, a statement on the war in Gaza Strip and the need to reach a ceasefire,
acontecimentos na região. Como é
including
sabido,
recent developments in the
o
region.
Vice-Presidente da Comissão e Alto Representante
As you all
não
know,
está presente
Vice President
por
and the
motivo
High
de
Representative
doença,
is not
e em sua
present here because he is
a
sick.
Comissão tem
he will be represented
connosco o Sr. Comissário Janez Lenarčič, a quem dou a palavra para o início do nosso debate.
By Commissioner Lenarčič, who I will now give the floor to talk about this point and then for the next debate. Thank you.
Mr. President, honourable members of the Parliament, for more than 4 months, I have been calling the attention to the catastrophic humanitarian situation in Gaza, where around 30,000 people have been killed and more than 1 million are displaced in Rafah. A recent health report from Johns Hopkins and the University of London predicts that more than 60,000 civilians will die unless there is a ceasefire and a massive surge in aid very soon. After almost 5 months of war and destruction, our focus must be on achieving an agreement for an immediate end to fighting, to alleviate the humanitarian catastrophe, save lives, and free the remaining 130 hostages still held by Hamas in Gaza. 26 of our member states share that call. In unison with most of the international community, we have urged Israel not to advance on Rafah. It would have humanitarian consequences of incredible proportions. Over 1 million Palestinians that have been displaced there and have nowhere else to go. Under these circumstances, the work of the United Nations, including UNRWA, remains crucial. UN Secretary General Guterres and Commissioner General Lazzarini are taking the Israeli allegations against UNRWA staff very seriously and have taken immediate, decisive measures. We must recognize the high-risk environment UNRWA operates in and cannot resort to collective punishment or contribute to the further humanitarian collapse in Gaza, considering UNRWA's literally vital role for the people in Gaza. But UNRWA is also essential for the stability in the region. Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and in the West Bank. In line with EU values, and while we are working constructively with UNRWA on the reinforcement of their internal controls, an audit carried by EU-appointed experts, and the vetting system for their staff, it remains of crucial importance to provide UNRWA with adequate funding. A funding gap would have catastrophic consequences. We have to be clear. There is simply no substitute for UNRWA, now and for the day after. Individual accountability must be ensured, but collective punishment cannot be the answer. The situation in the West Bank and East Jerusalem is equally concerning. Demolitions, settlement construction, restrictions on movement and access, as well as settler violence, have all surged since 7th October. On the adoption of sanctions on violent Israeli settlers, we have an agreement at 26. But as you know, we need unanimity to adopt EU restrictive measures, similar to those imposed by the United States months ago. Some member states have introduced national entry bans. We will continue to work towards a coordinated approach on this issue. With Ramadan approaching in 2 weeks' time, there is an acute risk that the situation could get further out of hand in the West Bank and in the region if we don't act decisively. For months, we have been urging Hamas to release the hostages and for Israel to protect civilians, increase humanitarian access, seriously confront settler violence, release essential revenues withheld from the Palestinian Authority, and desist from actions that risk aggravating an already explosive situation. We have also urged both Hezbollah and Israel to contain the dangerously spiraling violence across the Israeli-Lebanese border. There has been no substantial progress. Meanwhile, the current escalation has been a political windfall for extremists across the region who thrive on polarization and misery. All Iranian-backed militias are active, from Yemen to Lebanon. I'm worried about possible miscalculations that would trigger a wider conflict. All diplomatic channels must be used to prevent further escalation, be it in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, or the Red Sea, where freedom of navigation is threatened by Houthi attacks on commercial vessels. The EU is playing its role by deploying a naval operation called Aspides to escort and defend commercial vessels. It is the 7th EU operation that High Representative Vice President has launched during his mandate, and it is a new illustration of the importance for the EU to develop its military capacities. But we must move beyond treating symptoms to treating the cause. Israelis, Palestinians, and all peoples of the region deserve to live in security, dignity, and a stable neighborhood. But we all know that there is only one viable and sustainable way to achieve all these objectives: a safe and secure Palestinian state next to a safe and secure state of Israel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Janez Lenarčič. I will now give the floor to the speakers of the several political groups. We will start with the first round of speakers, beginning with Antonio López Istúriz White.
Thank you very much, Chair. If my calculation is right, we are holding the 6th debate on Gaza, and we have had 2 resolutions in 4 months. If anyone is taking good note, I think that we are breaking all the records in this Parliament. We did not break these records for Ukraine in 4 months, neither for Bosnia. No, we didn't. No, we didn't. Yes, not in 4 months, my friends, because this is not about ideology. I know that some of you are looking for votes in the next European elections, but this is not. This is about the sufferance of the Palestinian and the Israeli people and how we can mediate on that. And then I have to hear the High Representative attacking again the President of the European Commission. Why? Because we have elections in 2 months? Is this the role of the High Representative? Is this the role? People of good, that there are many in this Parliament, that they have voted in favor of 2 resolutions in this Parliament, that we were the first to talk about the humanitarian process, that we talked about the ceasefire condition to the release of hostages and the end of Hamas. We have been first in everything. We will continue that line. Yes, you will lose the elections, my friends. The polls are showing you are not reaching the European population. And unfortunately, because of the reaction against you, they are turning to the other side. And you will not be there in the next Parliament with all your rhetoric, because you take this ideologically not from the humanitarian approach that this question needs, and Europe at its centre to be the mediator between the parts. As long as you don't understand this, then we cannot be part of the solution. And that's what many of us we would like to be. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigado. Depois do PPE, tem agora a palavra o S&D, através da nossa colega Evin Inchir.
Next speaker is Ms. Insia.
Colleagues, as long as the bombs are falling down on Gaza, of course, we need to continue debating it, even if it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times. The debate needs to continue, and more than the debate, the actions must be put on the table, because to be honest, I am furious about the lack of actions from the side of the European Union. Time is running out and innocent Palestinians are losing their lives. 30,000 people. It's not just a number, but real individuals of flesh and blood. Yes, Israel has the right to protect itself against the terrorist activities of Hamas. However, taking the lives of innocent individuals is not a form of self-defense. More than 70% of the victims are children and women. Do we in this Parliament and the EU truly believe in upholding humanitarian principles and international law? Or do we only advocate for their application when it suits our agenda or when the victims are deemed to be the right ones? At this moment, in Gaza, newborn babies are being punished simply for being Palestinian.